Shana Tova, Boker Tov. We invite you to take your seats. We spend a few moments in private reflection, meditation, as we hear the exquisite sounds of the oboe, Dr. Jonathan Rubinstein. Shana Tova. As we enter into our second Rosh Hashanah in a world still in transition, we are grateful that we can come together wherever we are, here in our sanctuary in person, or in our own Mikdashei Ma'at, smaller sanctuaries, at home. Wherever we are connected to one another. We are linked to the countless generations who have come before us, in times of ease and in times of challenge. As we gather and call out in prayer together, we own our place and declare our faith by continuing an age-old practice. Even in the face of uncertain times, together we announce the new year, hear the shofar, pray and learn. No doubt for all of us, this feels different this year. Our sanctuary is nowhere near full, nor can we see the fullness of one another's faces by intention to protect the health and well-being of our community, that is, to save lives. There is no higher value than pikuach nefesh, the saving of a life. We will hear the shofar too, as we do on Rosh Hashanah. But that sound too is mediated. It will sound different this year as the shofar too wears a mask of sorts, a cover to keep us safe. And for those of you joining us from afar, it is different too. Wherever you are, please focus not on the differences or disconnections, but rather focus your heart and mind on what links us together and the ways in which we can elevate on this Rosh Hashanah. Look with fresh perspective, everyone, at where you are, where you were last year and where you are now, and how we can strengthen ourselves and strengthen one another. The possibility is before us in our hands, our hearts, our voices, and our words. For those of you joining us via live stream, some of you may have a machzor at home, a prayer book that you picked up. If not, you can go to www.nsci.org/HHD2021 to get to the flip book of the machzor, the online version. Follow with us, pray with us. Or if you're sitting with others or sitting alone, please sing, pray, call out. Let us together pray, reflect, and immerse ourselves in the potential of these high holy days. That, even though our spaces are different, that is exactly the same as it has always been and will always be. With each and every year, we have the opportunity to celebrate the fact that we have made it. We are here in this moment together. We turn to page 110 and join with Matovu. It is one of the key mitzvot of Rosh Hashanah to hear the sound of the shofar. There are in our Rosh Hashanah liturgy 3 sections of calls: Malchuyot, Zichronot, Shofarot. Malchuyot is our first section. We think of God as Melech, old language as king, as ruler, just like in Alvinu Malkeinu. We stand before the ruler with utter humility as we begin 10 days of Teshuvah on this first day of the year. Let us reflect on God's role in our lives as we hear the sounds of the shofar. Please rise if you are able.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmo'a kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. תקיעה שברים תרועה תקיעה שברים תקיעה תרועה תקיעה.
We turn in our prayer books to page 142 and remain standing for Baruch Hu. Turn in a moment to Shema, often called the watchword of our faith, the key statement from Torah of God's oneness. It tells us, Shema, listen. May we listen to the sounds of God's presence in our midst, and may we hear them. Page 150. Page 152.
הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננת לבבך ודיברת בם משיבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Page 161. The Israelites walked into the Reed Sea, 1 foot at a time. What were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts and advancing toward their open mouths? We continue to walk, here, now, 1 foot at a time, and on our better days, forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. Somehow I don't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds him up. Blessed is the source of help, often so unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. Page 164.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך גדול בקודש, גדול עושה. שירה חדשה שבפור גדולים לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו,
Page 168. We begin Amidah with a vote.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor VaHanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, מביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכר Magin Abraham Vizrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיעה, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צודק נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, מקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבולות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, נאמנת לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
In the normal, every day of our lives, we spend so much time building up an illusion of control. If I take care of my body, I won't get sick. If I work hard, I'll find success. But then the High Holy Days arrive to remind us of the truth, how profoundly our lives can be altered by random occurrences over which there is no control. Surely, after the last 19 months, we know this. Indeed, none of us can control the unexpected blows that will affect our families, our jobs, our health. But we can control how we live with them. Teshuvah, cultivating a commitment to be the best of who we can be. Tefillah, cultivating gratitude, connecting with our history and the values that bind us, reminding ourselves that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. And tzedakah, cultivating generosity and pursuing what is right. These help us to be able to face whatever we must with greater resilience, courage, and strength. Teshuvah, tefillah, tzedakah won't stop stock market crashes or global pandemics, but they can radically transform how we are affected by those blows. And so we turn again to the ancient, haunting, beckoning words of Unetana Tokef, page 174. Page 176. And so a great shofar will cry to Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, "Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged." In your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds. You decide destiny. You inscribe judgments. Page 178. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age and who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who will be exalted? Utshuva utfila utzdaka ma'avirin et roa hagzera. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Page 185. We move forward now to page 208. Let's join together in the middle of the page. God, who is ours, and God of our fathers and mothers, lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness. Teach us to be satisfied and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God whose trust stands forever. Baruch atah Adonai, melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael, v'yom hazikaron. As we yearn and seek blessing, in particular at the dawning of a new year, we turn to Yevarechecha, page 214.
Our God and God of our fathers, may thy blessing rest upon us, according to the gracious promise of thy word. Yevarecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha ve'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May the Lord lift up and shine upon thee, and may gracious unto thee. Isa Adonai, Pana May the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee. Isa
Please rise. Page 223. Let's read responsively. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Dever V'Cherev Ve'Ra'av Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kotsar Umastin Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu b'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu.
Page 226. When we first appeared on the stage of world history, a book was in our hands. This book, this sacred scroll, and we were told, this is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart. And we were told, you can surely do it. And then we learned this is where heaven and earth touch.
Adonai, Adonai, Ein Rachum v'Chanun. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Elohim Shemo. Adonai Tir Mama Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai
Please be seated. Today's Torah portion in the Reform movement is the Akedah, the story of the binding of Isaac. It begins on page 240. In just a moment, our Ba'alat Tekiah will be our Ba'alat Kore, and she'll come forward to chant for us. But just a few words about the Akedah. You know, this portion, like every portion, has unfolding meaning every year for us, and you can find different gems really to hold on to. For me, I'll share with you what I hold on to in this parsha this year is a notion that Rabbi Green raised up for us last night in her sermon, the idea of presence, that ultimately we need to embrace our presence, that we are here. Whatever it is that here is what it is, and we can choose to be in it or not. The word hineni, I am here, appears over and over again in today's Torah portion. perhaps reminding us that that choice to claim our presence, to declare, I am here. Whatever it is that I face, I am here to face it, might be one of the most important reminders for us this year in particular. Again, the Torah portion begins on page 240, as we are a community gathered here physically together for the first time in 2 years, and we are a community more expansive than ever again this year. Wherever you are, we'll invite everyone to participate in the Aliyah, the blessings before and after the Parsha, together. If you'd like to find those words, they are on page 230. Let's join together. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'torah.
Amen. Vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham Aviv, Vayomer Avi, Vayomer Hineni veni, Vayomer Hine ha'esh v'ha'etzim, v'yehaseh le'olah. Vayomer Avraham Elohim, Yirei lo haseh le'olah veni, vayalchu shnehem yachdav, vayavohu el hamakom, asher amar lo ha'Elohim, vayivein sham Avraham et hamizbeach, vaya'aroch et ha'itzim, vaya'akod et Yitzchak beno, vayasam ito al hamizbeach, mimah la'itzim, vayishlach Avraham et yado, vayikach et hama'achelet, lishchot et beno, vayikra elav malach Adonai min hashamayim, vayomer Avraham, vayomer hineni, vayomer al tishlach yadecha el hanar, va'al ta'aslo me'uma, ki ata yadati, ki yareya Elohim ata, velo chasachta et bincha et yehidecha mimeni.
Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'torah. Yishar kochech to Noah Polish. Thank you so much, Noah. Beautiful as always. We invite you to please rise.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני, ויד משה על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
As we move forward to Haftarah, which you can find on page 255 from the prophet Jeremiah, we are reminded of the promise of the High Holy Days, that newness is possible, that even amidst darkness, hope is possible, and that when one can access hope, one can access light and illuminate a path upon which we can move forward. These words beckon loudly this year. As with Torah, we are all here as one community. Let's join in the Haftarah blessings together as well. You can find the blessing before Haftarah on page 247. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher batorah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'invi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Adonai natzachein b'midbar am sridei harev haloch lehargi'o Yisrael merachoch Adonai nir'a li ve'ahavat olam ahavtich al ken משכתיך חסד, עוד אבנך ונבנית בתולת ישראל, עוד תדית טופייך, ויצא במחול משחקים, עוד תתאיך רעים, בהרי שומרון, נטעו נוטעים וחיללו, כי ישון קראו נוצרים בהר אפרים, קומו ונעלה ציון אל אדוני אלוהינו.
Page 259. We'll join in the blessing after Haftarah together. I'll just say, different from the blessing before Haftarah, many of us have added over the years our own flourishes and melodies to this blessing after. So we'll embrace potential cacophonous sound, and I'll just say, go with your truth on this one. We'll all get to Amen at the end together. Does that sound all right, Cantor Goldstein?
That is true.
Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ועל הנביאים ועל יום הזיכרון הזה שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל. אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הזיכרון. Many voices, one people. We turn in just a moment to our second set of shofar calls, zichronot. Each of the three sets of shofar calls invites us onto a trajectory of growth. You may not realize this, both as individuals and as a community. The second set, zichronot, means remembrances. With zichronot, we are reminded of the central role that memory and remembrance play in our spiritual lives. In its most traditional form, zichronot highlights those moments in our human Jewish history in which God remembered us. But the calls of zichronot can beckon to us most personally in our time as well. Can we remember to live our lives awakened to the very best of who we can be? Can we remember with honesty those times when we did not live up to our best and embrace these sacred coming days to take up the work of teshuvah? Can we remember what matters most in our lives? Page 267. God of remembrance, remember the covenant of our ancestors. We reaffirm it today. Our memory fades, but you remember all that we have forgotten. Your presence is a throne where all things matter and nothing is lost. Baruch atah Adonai, Zocher Habrit. 268, please rise.
Tekiah, Shevarim, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shevarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah.
Yasher Koach. Let's remain standing as we return the Torah to the Ark, page 277. So it's January 1st, 2021. I sit down for my morning cup of coffee. I'm holding it with two hands as I do, and I tip my head down to breathe in its wafting aroma, and I take a sip. But something strange happens. Or better, I should say, something doesn't happen. I curiously pull the cup back up to my nose. I take another deep sniff. Nothing. Another sip. This time I'm swishing the coffee all around my mouth. Zippo. No need to wait 48 more hours for that COVID test result. Happy New Year, friends. I have to tell you, if you haven't experienced anything like this before, it's an incredibly strange feeling. I knew my nose and mouth were intact, and I could physically sniff and swallow, but I could not smell or taste. There was an unusual energy around it, too. I shoved my nose into anything with an odor, pleasant, unpleasant, nada. My kids, who are sitting here, so they may laugh or may not, found this condition amusing at the time. They developed a game that involved their placing a mystery food in my mouth with my eyes closed, and then me having to guess what it was. But habanero pepper, no different than English cucumber. Raw onion, same as skinless apple. Lemon, could have been a clementine. My smell and taste were gone, and I was flying high and blind. After 2 weeks, though, the novelty of this condition wore off, and the loss started to wear on me. 2 weeks after that, an actual numbness set in, but not just related to those two missing senses. It was a dulling of everything, an all-consuming apathy. And by the end of February, with nothing new on the horizon other than my now blunted sensibilities, I found myself stuck in an attitude of, well, I guess this is just how it's gonna be. If you've navigated life over the last 19 months, you know this attitude too. So many of the structures we always relied on to guide our lives were just gone. Office commutes, chats after bumping into someone unexpectedly, handshakes, hugs. The days blurred into weeks, the weeks blurred into months. Had I showered? Did it matter? And despite that glorious, albeit reprieve this past summer, Delta has sunk many of us right back down into the now familiar droning of, well, I guess this is just how it's going to be. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant named the phenomenon that this expresses in his popular article, "There's a name for that blah you're feeling. It's called languishing." He writes, "At first, I didn't recognize the symptoms we all had in common. Friends mentioned they were having trouble concentrating. A family member was staying up late to watch National Treasure again, even though she knows the movie by heart. We just felt joyless, aimless. There's a name for that, languishing, a sense of stagnation and emptiness. It feels as though you're muddling through your days, looking at your life through a foggy windshield, and it might be the dominant emotion of 2021. But here's the thing. Languishing isn't a condition reserved for navigating pandemics. It turns out it's a part of the human condition all the time. We know languishing. We see it. We feel it. Some of us just occasionally, some of us more regularly too. When the fixtures of our lives, large or small, start to lose their color, feel different, or fall away. And it doesn't happen all at once either. Grant maintains, you don't catch yourself slipping slowly into solitude. You're indifferent to your indifference. Relationships that were once filled with love and light seem to lose their flame. Work that once brought meaning and inspiration feels empty, heavy. Friendships and experiences that bore excitement and fulfillment instead seem ordinary, aimless. Pasta for dinner? Again? Okay. We become resigned to life as it has become, which also now feels like this is just how it's going to be, forever. And it isn't a modern phenomena. It's the central idea in the traditional Torah portion for today, not the Akedah that the Reform movement reads, but the traditional one, the story of Hagar and Ishmael when Abraham sends them away. Hagar was Sarah's servant. Ishmael was Abraham's firstborn, his child with Hagar. Abraham gives Hagar a little food and a pouch of water and sends them both on their way. They wander in the wilderness until the pouch is gone. Hagar knows how things are going to play out. She accepts their fate, sets Ishmael down under a bush, and sits at a distance and weeps. She's languishing. This is just how it's going to be. There's nothing I can do to change it. But the story doesn't end there. An angel appears who tells Hagar to lift up the boy, take him by the hand. And when the two are reunited, the Torah reads this: Vayifkach Elohim et eineha. God opened Hagar's eyes, and then she saw a well of water. Commentators are quick to point out that God doesn't magically create a new well of water for Hagar, but rather God opens her eyes so she can see a well that's been there all along, a well she had been blinded to by her languished sensibilities. And whether for Hagar or for us, we simply, consciously, unconsciously, tend to accept the status quo. It's what we do. We make assumptions, and we underestimate our own agency in our lives to make changes. Even those as simple as seeing something in a new way or doing something we always have differently. Speaking of that, so I joined a bunch of online support groups for people who had lost smell and taste. There's tons of them out there, figuring that misery loves company. And in one of those groups, someone posted an article about olfactory training. And although it doesn't work for everyone, I thought I'd try it out. I didn't have much to lose. Here's how it works. A number of times a day, for many days in a row, you take one of 4 essential oils. I chose lemon. You hold it to your nose and you sniff it for a few minutes. But here's the thing. While sniffing, you are supposed to think about, remember, imagine the smell, in my case, of a lemon. Don't forget, you can't go pick a lemon and smell one as a point of reference. You cannot smell, so it's all in your head. The theory goes like this. Over time, something happens when the act of sniffing and the thinking about the object or item you are trying to smell somehow rebuild the neural and olfactory pathways that have been severed. And that allows us to smell again. But here's the amazing thing. It's not just the performance of the act of sniffing over and over again. You have to think about and imagine the object, the lemon, along with it, again and again. And that's what allows the renewed pathway to form. Isn't that incredible that something as seemingly simple as the content of our thoughts, the story we tell ourselves in any given situation, has the power not just to heal, but even to transform our lives? Judaism has always placed an important value on thinking, remembering, reimagining, because it understands that ultimately the choice between living a languished life or a fulfilled one is first and foremost set in our perception. And to this end, I'd like to suggest that the High Holy Days as an institution in and of themselves are designed to serve as both the prophylactic treatment as well as the antidote to the "that's just how it's going to be" condition, snapping us out of our regulated, languished realities with the shofar blast, beckoning that we can, in fact, renew ourselves, our relationships, and our world. The Hasidic master, Rabbi Kalonymus Kalman Shapira, wrote the following amidst the despair of the Warsaw Ghetto on Rosh Hashanah in 1941. The time for Teshuvah is Rosh Hashanah, the anniversary of the creation of the world. This is because Teshuvah is also a kind of creativity. We return to who we are meant to be, but have not yet become. We return to growth and possibility that has lain dormant within us and not yet flourished, much as a sculpture lies hidden within a brute block of stone. But know this, the High Holy Days won't sugarcoat anything for us. From today through Yom Kippur, we will be reminded over and over again that nothing is promised about how life will unfold. There are no guarantees. But so too will we be reminded and invited to remember that right now, this moment, we are here. We are alive. And every moment holds the possibility of renewal, rebirth, the creation of something new. That apology we've withheld because we've told ourselves that we weren't the real instigator in that argument, we can decide to be the bigger person and say, "I'm sorry," first. That grudge we've been holding on to, we have the power within us to choose to let it go. We can actually make something new for dinner. Through the work of Teshuvah, the High Holy Days' invitation to us to return to ourselves and the best of who we can be, Judaism reminds us that the status quo doesn't have to be a life sentence. We might not be able to choose the things that happen to us, but we can, as Viktor Frankl reminds us, always choose how we respond. And lest we forget, not responding, not choosing, well, that's a choice, too. Accepting this is just how it's going to be is a choice. We don't have to remain indifferent to our indifference. We can actually wake up. We can choose a different narrative to help us reframe. We can make the old new again. When we returned the Torah to the Ark a few minutes ago, we heard the final words of Eitz Chaim Hi, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, renew our days, Kekedem, as in days of old. But Kedem can mean something else. Rabbi Robert Scheinberg points out that Kedem is also where Adam and Eve were sent when they were banished from Eden. Mikedem Lagan Eden, east of Eden. And it was only once they were there that real human life truly began. With this reframing, we see that we're not asking for a return to the good old days, to the paradise that was before, but to the point where we can begin to live again. Last night, as the sun set, marking the dawning of the first day of the new year of 5782, I sat down at my office desk before services. I took out a bag of lemon slices I had brought from home. Something I do every High Holy Days, as a little lemon juice helps ensure my voice stays strong and clear. I brought one up to my face, its cold, juicy flesh just dabbing the very tip of my nose, and I breathed in its sweet citrus scent. And then as I bit into it, my lips instinctually pursed with its sour tang, one eye closing and my chin tilted down to the side. You know that feeling. Who knew a lemon could be so delicious? The sweet taste of something new. Again. Shana Tova Umtuka. May it be a good and sweet year for us all. In that spirit of the sweetness and our hope for a new year, we turn to the third and final set of shofar calls. This third set, shofarot, symbolizes the ultimate fulfillment that is the possibility and promise of these days of awe. This fullest set culminating in the climactic Tkiya Gedola, and it's a crescendo of our most profound hopes on the threshold of a new year. Each individual note, the singular Tkiya, the tripling Shavarim, the 9 blasts of Teruah, unite and flow into one expansive, final, seemingly unending wave. And in it, we are invited to literally feel ourselves part of the resonant call that transcends the limits of time and space for us all. Page 284, please rise. Baruch atah Adonai shomea kol truat amo Yisrael barachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people, Israel.
Tkiya Shevarim Teruah Tkiya Shevarim Tkiya Teruah Tkiya Reshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha el ram v'niso. Reshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha el ram v'niso. Mevim unazim mabit u'makshif Lekol tekiyatenu u'tekabel verachamim u'ratzon seder
Please rise again, page 286 for Aleinu.
Aleinu leshabeach l'Adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
May the time not be distant, our God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your dominion be established on earth and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. We turn to page 292 as we arrive at Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. This collective experience of Mourner's Kaddish, said on Rosh Hashanah, Yom HaZikaron, as it's known, the Day of Remembrance, brings us into our own hearts, our own minds, our histories, our stories, as we're invited to think of those who are no longer with us, those whose stories we carry, those whose legacies we live out as our own. And we remember them. We hold them in our hearts. Our tradition invites us to be grateful for having shared life with them, for being carriers of them. Again, page 292, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'alma divarach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kar'iv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam ul'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela ul'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshevei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be blessings. A few brief announcements. I'm not going to ask you to sit because you're just going to have to stand right back up again, and you've done a lot of that already. We want to offer our deep gratitude to John Rubinstein for our opening prelude with the oboe. We are grateful you could be back with us in person again this year, as you have for so many years. It's wonderful to have you back, and we're grateful you've been able to be with us. Thank you for bringing us into our prayer this morning so meaningfully and beautifully. To Paul Vanderweel and our High Holy Days Choir, thank you so much. Again, you lift our song, our voices with you, and let our prayers soar. We are grateful. To all of our volunteer ushers and greeters, thank you for welcoming everyone so beautifully. And to our staff, thank you for everything that you do tirelessly to make things possible. And to our, let's see, should we say Ba'alat Tekiah, Vikore or something like that, working double duty, many mitzvah points for Noah Polish this day. We are grateful for you, Noah, and I know that your mom appreciated being able to sit next to you up on the bima, so I'll speak for her and say thank you to you as well. And most importantly, we are grateful to you, those of you who are here with us in person, those of you joining us on the internet, wherever you are, you make this community a sacred one, and we thank you. May it be a good, sweet new year for us all. Please do check your High Holy Day schedule, your passes, check our website and our Facebook page for updates as our schedule continues to unfold. Our closing song will be The End of Avinu Malkeinu, page 223, the last 4 lines in Hebrew. Let's sing.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'oshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'oshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim.
Gebar Chatima Tova, may we be inscribed together in the book of life. Shana Tova.